That's right. Banter of Truth. Banter of Truth for our all-access subscribers. They get the stuff. Every once in a while, like last week, we'd like let everybody listen, but this is just for the family, the tight-knit.
Ooh, it's exclusive today?
This is exclusive content.
Awesome.
And as you can tell, Jimmy is not here. It's me and Krista. Jimmy's still in Europe, but
he's gallivanting.
I think we're going to do a call-in, have Jimmy call in. Not today,
but
that'd
be fun.
We are going to have Jimmy call in and do something. We'll see if he can get some time.
He might be asleep right now. With the time difference, I don't know.
Yeah, well, he's not getting much sleep. They're keeping him super busy.
That's too bad.
I know, but it's summertime. I got my yoga pants on. How about you, Krista?
I don't, but I said if I didn't come straight from work, I would have worn leggings for sure. I would have been comfy.
Everybody, just not everybody. Some people, I feel like some people are looking to get triggered. I think some people, not even really triggered. I think people. Are you triggered when you self-induce? I guess you could. Yeah, you're still triggered, I guess.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can self-induce a lot of stuff by not triggering.
I guess
I think so.
Yeah, well, you know what? We talked about some heavy stuff last week.
Yes.
And we thought, why don't we take a break? Maybe cleanse the palate and have a serious conversation, but on a lighter subject.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe next week we'll get into some heavier stuff again.
Okay.
But you had suggested that we talk about the yoga pants, leggings, two-piece bikini, string bikini.
Yeah, because we are moving, now that it's warm.
Yeah.
We are going to be moving into the swimsuit zone. And so the legging complaints on Twitter will probably now change to two-piece swimsuit complaints. At least that's what I observed last year.
Well, here's what's weird is I remember that in the 80s, dudes would wear like the bike shorts, just the bike shorts with a t-shirt. And so doesn't leave a lot to the imagination.
True.
But a lot of dudes, even guys like with like the long hair and everything, like that was a part of the.
Well, isn't that now like if you watch the Olympics, they wear more like full body, almost like wetsuit type stuff, like to glide through the water.
Yeah, and
so it's kind of converted to that.
Well, and then sometimes like some of the track and field people are wearing really, really small. Clothes?
Yeah, if you can call them
I don't know what to call it. I know that there's,
I did not watch a lot of the Olympics this last year, but did you remember hearing about some of the women's volleyball? They were like pushing back. Like, we are not wearing this skimpy stuff.
Yeah.
Which I thought was actually really cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
I think it's really cool. And they just kind of rebelled in a good way.
Because I have wondered, I'm like, why? Because clearly our culture is hypersexual, and women are exploited and sexualized. I mean, men are too, but women to a far greater degree are sexualized by men and culture, and sometimes women sexualize themselves. But I have wondered that, like, why does it have to be so little clothing on some of these sports? It's a little strange.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable for me.
That was yeah. I mean, that was interesting too to see them push back, because then it's like, okay, it's not their idea.
Yeah.
If anyone was ever wondering, it wasn't the women's idea.
Who's coming up with the
Olympic committees or whatever.
Is there some creepy guy in the back like, I've got a great idea?
Apparently.
Want people to tune in, right?
Like, you know what? I'm sure that's part of it.
It's gotta be.
I wouldn't be surprised. So.
But okay, so what you wanted to talk about, like, it's not just like leggings good or bad, or are women just out there trying to like get guys' attention and cause them to stumble, but like, what is modesty and how do we handle it, and where are there lines that we shouldn't cross when it comes to it? How do we understand all these things?
That, and I think we're kind of going about it wrong. Another thing I was thinking about this morning was when we make something so taboo, it makes it that much more appealing.
Right.
And so
you shouldn't make anything taboo, is what you're saying.
That's not what I'm saying.
Never say no.
You didn't let me
should always
continue.
Okay. You're capitulating to the culture. This is how people would respond to you. They wouldn't let you finish. They could see.
Yeah.
It's capitulating,
Don't at me.
Krista.
Don't at me. No, really, seriously though. But what got me, I was thinking about this morning, and I was remembering it's not related to attire. It was actually related to alcohol. So, and I don't think my parents would mind if I shared this. They would, if they were here, they'd probably share it themselves. But when I was a kid, There was not alcohol in our house, but occasionally when, like we picked up a pizza or something like that, my dad might grab a 6-pack of beer later when they came out with the tall cans or whatever. He'd just get one of those. But when it was gone, right?
Yeah.
It drove my mom crazy. My mom did not like alcohol.
She was uncomfortable with him having his beer.
Yes, because someone in her family drank. And so she saw what could happen. And so she was very sensitive to it,
right? Which
is understandable. But we didn't, otherwise we didn't have alcohol in our house really. Well, she would say, I don't recall this myself because my sister and I were pretty little, but she would say things sometimes about it.
Right.
And my dad, who was a high school teacher and a football coach, understood teens. So she told me later when I was an adult, she said, your dad pulled me aside and said, listen, you got to cool it on the negative comments because you're going to make this so taboo with the girls that they're going to be pushed to try it.
Yeah.
So just, you might want to just chill out. So she did. She was like, okay, that makes sense. And so for us, it was just like, I don't know. I like to feel like I'm in control of myself. So I never wanted to get crazy or whatever. But it got me thinking about that. And I thought, why can't we look at this in a similar way? Then it got me thinking, because more kind of heavy, hard news, I don't know who follows it, but the Josh Duggar got sentenced last week, right? So I started thinking about them. So here's a family who was very strict.
And strange, but go ahead.
But, well, part of the strictness led to the strangeness, I think, sure. Right? So I wasn't a huge devotee of that show, but I saw it, or read articles about them or whatever. But the girls, they weren't allowed to wear anything but skirts or dresses, and they had to be a certain length. But when I read articles about them, they were told, like, the reason that they couldn't wear anything else, like shorts or jeans or whatever, was they could defraud the boys. That was the word they used. You could defraud
what do they mean
man,
by
that? Cause him to stumble. I'm going to use that definition, cause him to stumble. When they would go out together as a family, or like if they wouldn't necessarily all be out together because there's a million of them, but if some of them were out together, it was the girls' responsibility. They had a code word. I don't remember what it was, but the girls would say this code word if they saw like an inappropriately dressed girl or woman, and the boys knew, like, they had to put their eyes down. But it struck me because when I was thinking about that, and I thought, okay, it was all on the girls. The girls had to control what they wore because they could defraud the boys. And the girls had to control what the boys saw. They had to use the secret language to make sure that they didn't see it. So I thought, okay, how do these boys grow up and know how to control themselves? It's like if we never taught our kids how to wash their clothes in a washing machine, they become adults and they have no clue how to wash their clothes. And I'm thinking this is where maybe we're going wrong with this. We're focusing on trying to limit something in the culture. And I'm not saying we shouldn't promote modesty, but the culture is going to culture, right? No matter what we say.
We have to learn how to navigate it.
Bingo. We have to figure out, like, how are we going to be grown-ups about this and deal yet not stumble ourselves, right? And so that's just kind of what I was thinking about earlier today. And I had mentioned to you just when I texted you, I was thinking of Colossians 2, like 21 verses 23. Comes to mind.
Oh, the asceticism.
Yeah, like this is what it says. Do not handle, do not taste, do not touch, referring to things that all perish as they are used, according to human precepts and teachings. These have indeed an appearance of wisdom in promoting self-made religion and asceticism and severity to the body, but they are of no value in stopping the indulgence of the flesh. That last statement is what I think is so important. This seems good, but they really are of no value. To stop that, that sin nature that we all have.
That is, I think, the big issue to deal with is how, because how do we navigate? How do you live in a pornographic culture, hypersexualized culture? You can't drive down the interstate without seeing billboards that are pornographic and in that they're designed to arouse lust.
Absolutely.
And there are people that dress not just immodestly, but sexually. Because I would say not necessarily immodestly, because we have to define what that means first. And biblically, it doesn't generally mean what everybody is talking about when they say immodest.
Right.
So I do think that this is the bigger issue. I think there's also like a misunderstanding of what modesty is and a misunderstanding about how we arrive at what is or isn't appropriate in terms of dress. Because what the most conservative Christians would say is okay on the beach would not be okay to Paul. Paul would be mortified to see what women were wearing on the beach. A one-piece, cover the full butt, thick straps on top.
Right.
Is the thinnest of material over a woman's body, and he would be mortified that we would say like, well, that's totally fine.
He'd be mortified at men in long swim trunks too.
Right. Like like you're just walking around with your shirt off and your
exactly
hairy, gross legs. But because some of it, I mean, when we're talking about what is and isn't appropriate to wear in a culture, it in the world is to a certain degree culturally determined.
Absolutely.
There's no other way to arrive.
We discussed this before. I think the three of us were together and we were talking about this. And yeah, like obviously it varies from culture to culture. I mean, there's countries on the face of the earth where women are in full burqas, you know, but guess what? They're still sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
So, it really to me comes down to we all are responsible for ourselves in terms of how we're dressing and why we're dressing that way.
Yeah.
We need to examine like what am I really after here by doing this? And then number two, being on the receiving end of seeing people in culture, how are we then responding? How are we viewing these other people who as Christians we would say are fellow image bearers, who may be fellow brothers and sisters in Christ? We need to be thinking about it that way as well.
It's interesting because that really does get at what modesty is the why are you wearing what you're wearing? That's at the heart of modesty. In 1 Timothy 2, 9 and 10, likewise, women should adorn themselves in respectable apparel with modesty and self-control, now here's the contrast, not with braided hair and gold or pearls or costly attire, but with what is proper for women who profess godliness with good works. In other words, you should derive your sense of beauty not based on external accoutrement, but with the character of godliness.
Right.
So don't find your value, your worth, your beauty in the externals, and don't make much of yourself with the externals. Instead, be self-controlled and dress appropriately. It says respectable, right? Respectable apparel. And so that is what we're talking about, what's culturally appropriate. And what some things, there are beaches where even like two pieces are not allowed, or there are certain kinds of bikinis that aren't allowed on certain beaches. There's a famous video of a woman getting arrested because she had a thong on, and at most beaches that's probably okay. I don't go to the beach. I don't like the beach. I don't like the sun. I don't like sand in my toes. I don't like any of that. But I know that it's not a big deal in some beaches, but apparently it is in others.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's right or wrong in and of itself. I'm just saying like different cultures and different cities and different states and different countries have different expectations about what's appropriate.
Right.
So I think we have to wrestle with that. Like where do you draw the line? And to some degree, I think it's fair to say like, well, we have to keep in mind, like we certainly, if the culture has determined, hey, listen, you know what? Nudity in public is not okay. Our culture is at least generally there.
For the most part. Unless you're talking about the Met Gala or the Oscars or something.
But like there's like free the nipple movements and all these things where like we should have the right, like these are mammary glands, these are not sexual, brother. Stop sexual. So but in general, like, so, and that's not where we draw the line, but you can say, oh, well, if the culture has drawn the line, if it's generally perceived culturally as this is not appropriate, then it's not okay to cross that line. It'd be, better to not cross that, even whatever it is. I think that's something to keep in mind.
I know. I'm laughing because I'm remembering. Okay, I'm dating. We're like similar age, but the Seinfeld, the good naked and the bad naked. Do you remember that? Yeah. If it falls into the category of bad naked, don't do it.
Right. like working on your bike.
Opening the jar of pickles.
Opening peanut. Yeah. No, bad naked.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
So the problem is like, yeah, but most guys don't even believe in bad naked. I think most guys are like, I don't really care. So, but I do. And again, like a lot of these guys that are taking issue with women dressing, and I'll just use the word provocatively. Mm-hmm. It's not that I disagree with them, that people should dress respectably. Right. And so, dressing provocatively is not a Christian thing. We're supposed to be modest, humble, not drawing undue attention to ourselves. So it's not that I disagree with some of what they're saying, but they tend to pinpoint it on specific things that they seem to have a fetish over. I don't know, I assume, because they talk about it, a fair bit. But yoga pants, leggings, can you explain what the difference is to those of us who have no idea? You're a woman, you know, you go to the gym and stuff. You have leggings. What's the difference between yoga pants and leggings?
Okay, well, the way I think about it, I'm not necessarily right on this.
I'm going to hold you to this.
I'm not a fashionista.
This is the fact.
By any stretch. But so yoga pants, I think they look a little more like pants. Like sometimes, like they fit tight in certain areas of the body, but as they get closer to the feet, they might get a little wider. They might even, like for a while, there were certain yoga pants that almost look like sort of like bell bottoms or whatever. So to me, a legging is tight. Like it's tight on every part of your leg.
Okay.
You know, so kind of like running tights. You know, back in the 80s, that's why I had a pair of running tights or something, you know, but they were basically leggings, you know, or now, yeah, they're tight the whole way. But I think yoga pants, at least at some point, maybe they're not now, but they can be a little looser, you know, and things like that. Here's the thing though, this was another thing I was thinking about like a week or so ago. I go to the chiropractor, and I go to a chiropractor that you don't just go in and get adjusted and leave. They actually, like, you do your exercises there. And
you align your chakra?
No, we don't do that.
I don't know if that's a thing.
Well, it is in yoga, but like not at the chiropractor. Okay. I align my spine.
It's a different kind of witch doctor than the yoga. Okay.
I don't know, but I like it. Anyway, and I'm feeling better, which is good.
Good.
But anyway, so you're there like kind of working out a little bit. Yeah. It's very light. But I was thinking about like one day, you know, I'm doing these exercises and it dawns on me like, oh my gosh, is my shirt like, I wanted to make sure my shirt wasn't hanging open.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know, because there's men in there or whatever. And then I was thinking about it and I thought, okay, so if I came in here in like just a sports bra, people like the leggings police would be like, oh my gosh, what is she doing? But it would be tight. Nobody would be looking down my shirt. It wouldn't be revealing necessarily. Or I might have, you know, I could wear a tank top over it. But if you just wore like a regular big t-shirt, you could be flashing the whole place. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so it's like...
It's weird. The whole thing is weird to me. By the way, I looked it up while you were talking. This is from the Yoga Nomads.
Okay.
Yoga pants are a general term for opaque, thicker material, stretchy, sweat-wicking bottoms that can be used for athletics like running, Pilates, gym workout, or of course yoga. Leggings, on the other hand, are typically designed to wear under your clothes for warmth or comfort. It's like under your skirt or like
which
whatever.
I have worn leggings
that way. I don't know if that's right. Yeah, so I just find the whole thing like, if I see a person in yoga pants, first of all, it doesn't register. And maybe I'm jaded or insensitive, or maybe I'm disciplined and self-controlled. I don't know. But if somebody's wearing yoga pants or whatever they are, whatever you call them, it doesn't really register. Mm-hmm. The only time it registers is if I'm in the gym and a woman's wearing yoga pants and she's like super ripped and has those like muscle thighs and calves. Yeah. It's like, I'm just like, dang, she's shaming everybody in here with her muscles. That's like the only
You're just
thought
impressed with her athleticism that she's worked so hard to achieve.
Like, and I have this, when I see a dude walking around who's super cut, I'm like, dang, that guy looks awesome. It's the same, I have the same thought. And so, but there might be another situation where a woman could be wearing something that is not leggings, but maybe it's something more revealing, maybe it's more skin, I don't know, where it would be like, oh, I don't want to focus, or I would have to consciously say, I'm going to consciously look away. And that's part of the problem is like what one guy might consider like a turn on or might incite him to lust is not the same thing for another guy.
Right.
And so it seems rather odd. I mean, some guys look at women's feet and they're just like, whoa, I don't get that. I think that's really bizarre. But hey, whatever, man. If you love your wife's feet, cool. I don't want to see anybody's feet. So I'm anti-foot is what I am. I have no interest in feet. So, but like, it just seems like really subjective. And these same people that don't like yoga pants because they're apparently revealing, when I don't know how they mean that, because they'll go to the beach that shows more.
I think they think they're revealing is because they are so form-fitting.
Well, but they're not more form-fitting than a bathing suit.
Right.
It's the same thing, just there's less of it in the bathing suit.
That's true. I mean, that's true. I don't know. It's mental gymnastics. I don't know. It makes me tired trying to figure it out.
So can we agree on this? Can we agree like, hey, everybody, maybe we shouldn't dress in any way that where we're trying to get people to sexualize us.
Yes.
I think we can agree on that. And I think we could say that there are lines in which we should have like a conscious commitment, like, well, this would be provocative.
Right. Yeah, I like that. And I was thinking back again, my parents, I was thinking back to my dad when I was a teenager talking to me about some of these things. Like he didn't explain to me like, hey, guys are really visual and all that stuff. I didn't learn that till later. But again, I mentioned he was a high school teacher and coach. Yeah. He knew, and he was a man. So he understood it. But I remember him explaining to me, like, probably it was related, I don't know. I didn't have anything revealing, but maybe he was talking about miniskirts, I think. And he was like, you think you're just wearing a cute short skirt. And he said, that's all you think you're doing. But he said, but what you don't realize is you are basically advertising. You are sending a message that I don't think you intend to send, and so what to you is just a cute short skirt means something totally different to the guys that you go to high school with.
Especially, I remember high school and the short skirt, which, and by the way, there's no problem with women wearing skirts, but the problem is that at some point you wind up exposing yourself.
Exactly.
And not just because they see your knees, but because, you have to sit down and do
when you're sitting at a desk or whatever.
But I remember as a teenager in high school, short skirt just meant eyes peeled. Like, let's, and so like, I wouldn't blame her for it necessarily. She might not be thinking about what she's doing, but for the guys, it was,
here we go.
Or do we get a peek? Is there a show? Which is gross. It's totally inappropriate. I wouldn't want anybody looking at my daughters.
But here's the thing that my dad never said to me was, you shouldn't wear this so you don't cause someone else to stumble. He never said that to me.
Well, let's talk about that because like you were saying, like that's the real issue is how do we raise men and women who know how to live in a hypersexualized world, where like people are putting themselves out there, or they're encouraged to put themselves out there to be objectified.
Right.
And where there is an active attempt, spiritually and even through advertising and whatnot in our culture, there is an attempt to entice men to lust because lust moves the wallet. It's like, okay. So how do we start to encourage men to live righteously, and not just men and women, but men are the ones that are doing most of the squawking about leggings or yoga pants or whatever.
Right.
So what is the message that we need to be sending?
Well, I think for guys, like I was thinking about that this morning too, is like, I think for men, I know there's all the books, Every Man's Battle and all that stuff, which has come under significant criticism by some, and rightly so, I think, when some of the things that they are proponents of in that. But one thing that I think is probably appropriate is the idea of looking away. I also think as a counselor, another thing that I'm really big on is the kind of self-talk that we have. Yeah. And that may sound all like psychobabbly to people, so I apologize. But the fact of the matter is
you're preaching to yourself. Say it that way.
There you go. Preaching to ourselves. We're always having a conversation in our head, right? One way or the other. Whether you say something and you're like, oh, that was the dumbest thing to say. Why did I just say that? That kind of thing. We're always doing that. And so if you see a woman who is dressed in a way that you find provocative, whatever, as you pointed out earlier, for every guy, it's going to be different. Whatever it is that could potentially trip you up, you might want to say to yourself, like, okay, look away. That's not for you.
Yeah.
Or you could say, like, I'm not going to objectify this woman. She's a fellow image bearer in Christ. Or if it's somebody at church, she's a fellow sister in Christ. She's somebody's daughter. She could be someone's wife, depending on how old she is. Yeah. And she's not mine. So I am not going to think of her that way. It's a conscious choice. And maybe you literally need to preach to yourself if that's an issue for you.
Absolutely have to. That's a big part of spiritual warfare is prayer and preaching to yourself in prayer. So in any fight that we're having, we've got to do that and take ownership of what our struggle is. And again, like Jimmy and I were just talking about this because one of the listeners had written in and asked about pornography. And, one of the things, the probably most significant truth that helped me when I was a younger man, begin to overcome lust, and I'm still a sinner, so lust is still something that I have to fight, but pornography in particular was, this is a person, like you said, made in God's image, and they were created to be respected by fellow human beings. They're put on this earth to be loved by their neighbors. I'm called to love that person, and by looking at pornography or whatever and objectifying them, I'm not loving them, I'm using them, and in that sense abusing them and potentially contributing to human trafficking and everything else. It was devastating for me when God began to put that principle into my heart, and that was the main thing that I was preaching to myself in the midst of that struggle, particularly in my 20s. So it was really helpful, and I do think encouraging men to take ownership of themselves is key.
Absolutely.
Self-control. It's
a fruit of the Spirit,
right?
Right?
Galatians
I mean, come on.
And like going back to the alcohol thing as it relates, like I've always said, I think it's a better example, and I will say better. I think self-control is a better example for our children than abstinence when it comes to alcohol, because they don't see self-control in the culture very much. They see a lot of abuse and binge drinking, whereas if they were to see, oh wow, mom and dad enjoy spirits or a beer and they don't abuse it, they're actually very self-controlled. I never got drunk in high school. I did drugs, but I never got drunk. I didn't like beer, but I did like vodka. And I did shots one time with one of the guitarists from Manowar as a 16-year-old. It was the highlight of my youth when I was in my youth. Not now. I think back at that. It was a bad idea. But I would say that, like, my dad had 2 beers and 2 beers only every night. And then in his late 40s, he's just like, I'm done. And he just stopped. No reason, no drama. I've never seen my parents drunk, never any abuse at all like that. But he was always disciplined and self-controlled. He had a CB, his caller ID, what do you call it? ID? His handle.
Yeah.
His handle was 2 beers. Because he went to this, he used to go to this really rough bar, and a biker bar. He would go there a couple times a week or whatever, and hang out as friends with the owner. And they all knew him there, and they all knew he only ever had 2 beers, and that was it. So like I saw it, and it was just like, it was normal. It was weird. So I do think self-control is a better example. And so when it comes to like, how are we dealing with lust? Well, it is fundamentally, first and foremost, a matter of self-control and how you perceive other people.
I think of another example, and I was raised the same way, but I never thought about it like that until you said it. I remember you said that a few years ago. I don't know if it was during a sermon or if we were just talking, but I thought, he's totally right that Christians can be an example of self-control in a culture that is, like you said, binge drinking and crazy and whatever,
eating.
Right. And so, yeah, I totally am with you on that. But yet also, I think too, being sensitive to those that we know struggle with alcohol and still not flaunting it.
Right.
Like if I'm having people over and I know someone, guess what? I'm not serving.
You're not wearing yoga pants.
I'm not, no. Well, probably not. But I'm not necessarily serving alcohol either.
Yeah,
because
well,
I know that person's, we're sticking with pop and iced tea or whatever. But a similar thing, a self-controlled thing about, seeing women, let's say for men. I remember again when I was a kid, fairly young, and my dad said something like, I don't know if we were watching TV. I don't remember who the woman was, but he's like, wow, she's really pretty. And so me being the little Pharisee that I was, because I totally was, and I said, Dad, you're married. And
you can't recognize beauty.
Because apparently I'm everyone's conscience. But anyway, he looked at me and goes, I am married, but I'm not dead. And he didn't. Now, some would say, Krista, he meant that like I can do whatever I want. I can still lust. No, if you knew my dad, you would know that's not what he meant. What he meant was I can still recognize beauty when I see it.
There's nothing wrong with that.
The same way I would watch football games with my dad, and he would be like, look at that guy's legs. He is so powerful. Like just like what you said about going to the gym and recognizing somebody's hard work and their physique. That's what he just did that stuff. That was just kind of, he would just recognize it, but it didn't mean anything.
No, Jen and I have always, like, if somebody really stands out as like a very good looking person, it's been normal for us to go, dang, that dude is really good looking, right? And Jen will be like, yeah, he's good. Or no. Whatever. Right. Or that woman, like, she's really pretty. And the good thing is like, I've always had a type. So if I find somebody pretty, they look like Jen. She's always like, oh yeah. But there's nothing that if you're not sexualizing anybody, it's just like I find like but I tend to notice physique. Like if a dude, I'm just super impressed with guys that are disciplined. Especially like one of my favorite things is I love Instagram accounts that show guys in their 50s who are ripped. I'm just always like, I'm turning 50. I could do that. Could I do that? I probably will never do that. But yeah, it's not a. So I do think we self-control should be the focus. It's almost like okay, so I'm not going to go I'm not going to go after charismatics because that's not my team. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go after Baptists and Reformed Baptists in particular. And when we step out of line and we start embarrassing ourselves, and I'm going to be, hey guys, stop doing that. Mm-hmm. Let's get back on the path. Like let's be consistent, godly people. Reformed Baptists, look, let's do what we're supposed to do, be who we're supposed to be. Don't get wrapped up in this other stuff. You're getting off the mark. Right. Now, there's nothing wrong with addressing the charismatics and saying like some people really want to do that. That's fine. But I tend to focus on my people, my group, my circle, and these guys. Now, maybe they're spending a lot of time encouraging men to exercise self-control, but I'm not seeing that. What I am seeing,
Twitter sound
no,
bites.
that's what I'm seeing is a focus on what other people are doing, and so the very, I mean, like, and I don't know, do they have people in mind? Are they upset about women wearing leggings at church? I mean, I don't know what they're specifically thinking about, but you live in a world where, like, if you can't control yourself and if you aren't calling men to exercise self-control, like it says in Proverbs 25, then you are like a city left without walls. Like self-control is, the fruit of the Spirit of God in you, but self-control is going to be the thing that protects you. And if you can't do that, then you cannot master the sin that is crouching at your door. So I mean, I don't know why that's not the emphasis.
Yeah.
Rather than not yelling, but like tweeting at women to stop wearing certain kinds of clothing.
Now, not to be like, I don't want anybody saying like, oh, you never addressed the women though. Because that drives me nuts sometimes when we always pick on women and then we never talk about the men. So I will say this for women though, that we have a responsibility though too. And because what happens a lot, kind of like that, how we started with the whole thing, we make it so taboo. We tell somebody not to do something, and then what's the first thing they want to do? Do the thing.
Right.
It's just, that's our sin nature. It's who we are. And so some women have pushed back and they're like, hey, I should be able to wear whatever I want and not be objectified and things like that. And in theory, I get what they're saying. Ideally, that would be nice. But in the real world, it ain't happening. Well, guess what? Men aren't like that. You got
to ask, like, somebody makes a statement like that. Okay, in what way might they be right, and in what way might they be wrong? Okay, in what way might they be right? Well, yeah, you shouldn't have to dress in a particular way because some rando might find it tempting.
Right.
But we are neighbors. And if we're in the church, we're brothers and sisters.
Correct.
And we do have to look out for each other.
Right. And so this isn't like, when I say this, I'm not victim blaming, because some people try to do that. Like, well, they were asking for it. No, that's an excuse for men behaving badly, right? To say something like that. But women, we do need to I think we need to examine at every age, why am I dressing like this?
Yeah, that's, I think, the right
You know
question.
What I mean? Why am I doing this? And some of it might be, I really just feel comfortable in this and I like it, like a legging, for example. But you know what? I would not show up to church in leggings. And if I did wear leggings, they would be the kind that I'm wearing a dress. I have worn them that way, where I'm wearing a long dress, that goes to around my knees, and then I have a pair of leggings underneath. There is nothing in any way revealing or whatever, and even like when it's my week to do announcements, and I'm up front, I think about what I wear differently than if I'm just going to even be sitting, partaking in the service, and not serving. So I am aware of that stuff. But yeah, I think we need to ask, why are we dressing the way we are? Are we trying to attract some attention? And I don't even mean just catcalls or things like that, but and I think, when you read the scripture about that, some women try to say like, well, they're talking about wealth when they're talking about the jewelry and things like that. Maybe they are, maybe that was about wealth, but it's still about attracting attention. It's about kind of showing off, right? And things like that. So that doesn't mean we show up in a potato sack or
right.
we don't take a shower, we don't wear makeup, or we can't wear some jewelry. I mean, you know me, I like to wear jewelry. I like to.
You basically dress like Mr. T. I mean, on most Sundays, you have at least as many necklaces.
I can hardly hold my neck up. I have so much. No, but I like to look nice because there's an element of, I think, having some pride in ourselves. And I use that in the best sense of the word pride, not the haughty.
Self-respect.
Yeah. So I'm all for that. But yet I'll give an example. And I don't know who this person was, but Kevin and I were out over the weekend. We were in Geneva getting some treats at Graham's or whatever. And we were sitting out there and a woman walked up and she was, I'm short. I'm only 5'2". She was much taller than I was. So she was wearing fairly short shorts considering how tall she was. No, she was otherwise covered. She wasn't, but then she had on like these high heel shoes. So she had these crazy long legs and then made them even longer by being tall. And I couldn't help but think, even though she didn't look ridiculous, it wasn't so revealing. I felt like she knew she was attracting attention because her legs were just so long, Yeah. And I don't know, maybe I was just jealous because I'm so not tall. But that was an example of where she wasn't dressed necessarily immodestly, but yes, it was definitely an attention grabber,
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm talking about, that, what is our motive? What is our motive?
Why? Why?
Yeah, why are we doing this? I mean, if it's something like, wow, my husband said I look really great in this, and so I want to wear this, great. Fine. But yeah, I think we just need to be smart about it. I think we need to raise our daughters to be smart about it. Like how my dad said, think about the message you're sending by what you're wearing. And, again, we have sons. I remember when Ian was a freshman in high school, there were people that I knew from the high school that had sons that were older or whatever. And there was one in particular, they posted on Facebook, and I showed Kevin. I said, look at so-and-so and his date. And his date's prom dress was so low cut. And Kevin I showed him, he's like, why are you showing me that? And he kind of averted his eyes. And I said, because I'm imagining Ian going to prom in a few years, and I'm thinking, where's he supposed to look all night?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think we need to help our girls realize those things.
Right.
We need to coach our guys. What you talked about, preaching to yourself. We need to teach our sons to preach to themselves and realize, hey, that girl that you're dating, she's probably going to be someone's wife. Maybe yours, but probably not, depending on how old they are.
Statistically, and not going to be your wife.
Probably not. And so to think about that you need to respect her that way, that this is probably someone else's wife. And until she's yours, you need to act appropriately, So yeah, I think we just need to be mindful of those things and intentional about it.
I know you and I are on the same page. So it's, I'm trying to, I like to kind of put them into little categories. So on the one hand, we should be teaching our children, and especially our girls, because the culture does focus on women sexually and sexualizing them more than the men. But we need to raise them to think carefully and critically about how they dress and how they present themselves to the world. Why would you wear what you're wearing? What's your aim? And, and where is the line on what is respectable and inappropriate? And context is a big thing. I think context is a big determination, because on the beach, a woman wearing a bathing suit, even a two-piece, it's like whatever. But if a woman was walking around in her bra and panties, it would be like, well, that would be weird. And it's the same coverage in some sense. Or if a woman was wearing a bathing suit in a restaurant, it would be weird. It would be, so context, all of that's fine. I think, wrestling with that, teaching our people to take responsibility for themselves, to present themselves, yes, modestly, respectably. And another thought. But the main thing I think that we really should be dealing with is what can we control, right? About it, which is ourselves, and teaching our men and women how to navigate life in a world filled with devils and temptations. Right. I had two thoughts. One was just sort of a memory. I have a few tattoos. They're visible, and I really wrestled with do I want to have tattoos that are visible? Am I asking people to look at me if I get them? Because it certainly invites looks and questions. Yeah. So is it immodest in that sense? Is it self-seeking to get tattoos that are visible? And so I had to wrestle with what are my motives and all of that. And even then, when I thought like, no, just because I actually, I like them, I would like to have tattoos that are visible. I still waited to make that determination about, okay, where do I think I'm going to be spending the rest of my life? And people here don't care. Like I thought, oh, I'll let them creep down because they were all on my chest or above the short sleeve mark. Then when I finally said, like, okay, well, I can let them creep down my arms and go onto my hands and maybe my neck soon. It was only because, nobody cares. It's not going to be a barrier where we live, where we've planted, and where I hope to spend the rest of my days.
Right.
Oh, but I did have one more question. Maybe we can end on this.
Okay.
Why do men dress the way they dress and women dress the way they dress? How much do you think of what women do is actually in their minds for men or for women? Because it seems to me that a lot of the things that women do, I don't know any guy that cares or likes it, but other women like it. Like these super long nails. That's like 1 out of 1,000 guys likes those super crazy long nails.
Like longer than this?
No, I'm talking super crazy
like the
long.
Crazy long.
Really
I don't know how
long.
anybody functions in those nails.
Yeah, it's like, or like whatever it is, like tons of makeup. I don't know a dude that likes a girl with tons of makeup on.
Kevin tells me he thinks I'm better with no makeup.
Right. It's like,
and that is how I know love is truly blind. I'm
no, but that's like
serious.
how most guys that I know, like in the world, even it's like what? So like it's like how much of that? How much? You can break it down for us.
Okay, well, I can try. This is my opinion, but I've never studied it. I can't back it up with research. There might be some out there. I don't know.
There's got to be.
But I think, I think a lot of it is. In the past, I think a lot of it was comparison. Like when you think back to when we were in high school, we didn't have the social media stuff. So we just had each other. And so I think...
And Aquanet.
And a lot
of Aquanet. We had a lot of Aquanet.
Oh, boy, did we ever. I did not do the mall bangs. I had...
You didn't?
No, not...
You just had the flower.
I did not have... Yeah, I had the poof, but I didn't have the
wall.
Spear.
the wave.
The unicorn. Anyway, but yeah, you kind of did what other people did, right, to fit in. Now with social media, oh my gosh, the stuff I think girls in particular are doing to like keep up or whatever. I mean, there's like... you hear about these makeup hacks and like certain lipsticks, like you can't buy them anywhere because they were on TikTok and they're just gone. And like even just normal, like not because they were some like sexy thing or something like that, but they're just gone. So I do think, I think women do a lot for other women. I mean, I even think if you even go out, like maybe you and Jen have been out or something and you see a group of girls out on a girls' night, and they're all decked out for each other. There's no dudes anywhere. And so clearly they're doing it for each other. Or, I mean, the other thing I will say, because like our girls' nights aren't like that when I go out with Jen and our other friends and stuff. No, not like that.
Okay.
We don't.
I've seen pictures, so I'm just,
Well, we don't look like homeless people or something. I mean, we try to be like look decent, but we're not ridiculous.
You're not going to like the Met Gala or like what some fancy where you wear like fancy dresses and stuff.
No.
Okay.
Or even like everybody looks like they always look, generally, I think. But here's one thing I will say though too, is sometimes some women wear makeup just because they like it. And they like how they feel in it.
Sure.
Like I would put myself in that category. I certainly don't wear it for Kevin. He does not care. I wear it for myself because I just feel better in it. I feel more confident in it. But I don't think I wear a ridiculous amount of makeup. I don't, I'm not wearing like, crazy bright colors.
You don't look like Dee Snider from Twisted Sister.
Exactly.
He wore a lot of makeup.
He did. He was trying to attract attention, clearly. But yeah, so I think women do it for a couple different reasons, sometimes for other women. Sometimes maybe they think they're impressing guys. I don't know. Like I was never clubbing or anything like that. So I don't know what women were doing. That was probably more how they dressed than anything to attract attention, I'm guessing.
It just seems like, I just wonder,
But what about guys? I would guess guys dress like because I want to be comfortable.
Yeah, most guys that I know dress with what they like, or they dress to be comfortable. Some guys are more fashion conscious, and those guys, tend to be up on current trends. I'll think of a guy. I won't name anybody, but Oliver Boujde at our church. He's a handsome man, and he dresses nice.
He always looks really nice.
It's like he's very put together. And I think it's just because he likes it. But I will say, if a guy gets feedback from a girl that he likes, or just a girl that he finds attractive, or a girl that he respects or something, if the girl says, "You look good in that," he will lock that in, and that will become one of his things because he got positive feedback on something. Right. But I don't know. It seems like, again, I'm not a fashion guy.
Well, it probably depends on the guy. Like Kevin's Mr. Outdoor Tech Gear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, we gotta change from the plaid. Like, he's just got a lot of like plaid, like type quick dry. Because an adventure, could break out at any time.
He's got to be ready.
Right? He's got to be ready. So yeah, we're moving, broadening the horizons. But yeah, no, that's probably true. Yeah, I could see where women would influence what a guy wears potentially.
I know that Jen wears very little makeup.
She doesn't need to.
I don't think she needs it. She's beautiful. She
doesn't.
But she wears very little makeup. But the one thing that she does, and I've always encouraged her to do it because I know she likes it, is to go get her nails done. Get what do you call it when they go in and they put the nail stuff on there?
Yeah, the dip.
What do you got going on?
Yeah,
what is that?
Dip.
Well, what do you call it?
It's nail dip, and it's powder that comes in different colors, and so they paint this clear stuff on, and then you dip your nail in the powder, and then
like what, the French manicure.
Yeah, you can get a French with the white tips, or you can. I got little polka dots on some of my nails right now.
I'm like, you should do that. Like, go and like. You don't spend any money on yourself. Like, do that thing because it makes her feel. She doesn't do it for. She doesn't care what other people.
That's
think.
Why I do it. I like it.
Yeah,
it's like self-care.
I've got gnarly, gross fingers and toes. They're just.
You could go like sometimes I've been there. I know.
That's a Jimmy thing.
Kevin and I were talking about that, and I said, yeah. Sometimes I see husbands come in, and I just shake my head because I think there is no way I could convince Kevin to do this.
I'll tell you what. If Jen said, I like it. I would like it and then I would go do it. But that's why I got my short beard. Jen's like, I like it short, so now I got it short. Get some feedback, make the change. Hey guys, thanks for listening to Banter of Truth. You are our All Access family. Thank you for supporting the podcast. It allows us to do what we're doing. In fact, it's allowing us to hopefully drop some video interviews that I'm working on. So hopefully that will come into play soon. Be sure to tell your friends about All Access in case they might want to be a part of it. But we got regular episodes for everybody on Mondays and Thursdays, so be sure to check that out and encourage people to listen whenever they can. Check out our website, doctrineanddevotion.com. You can see us on Facebook, facebook.com/doctrineanddevotion, and on social media. We are at Doc and Devo. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned. We've got some more interviews coming. It's going to be good. Later.